Let me guess, you've cut calories, you've increased your workouts, and the scale has not budged for weeks. This is not from a lack of effort, it is a biological adaptation. I'm Dr. Laura Pfeiffer. I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I'm here to talk to you about that frustrating plateau when you are on a weight loss and fat loss journey and how to get through it. So, let's talk about, first of all, what fat loss resistance actually looks like. So, you're eating less than ever, you're actually moving more, you feel more tired, you might feel hungrier, and you actually feel less lean. What's happening? A lot of times, what happens when we are in a caloric deficit for a long period of time, we have what's called metabolic adaptation. This is more likely to happen sooner as we get older. And we have all of the other hormonal shifts that happen as we go into perimenopause and menopause. And so, what happens is your metabolism downregulates. This is metabolic adaptation. You burn more calories than you used to, even at rest, which means that that caloric deficit that you're in feels like it's not even enough and you are starving. What happens in metabolic adaptation is your body is trying to stop losing weight. It downregulates the calories it burns at rest and it increases your hunger hormone. It also reduces your satiety hormone, meaning you're burning less, you are no longer full, and you are starving. Now, some people would take this and say, well, I guess I need to keep cutting calories. The goal is not to keep cutting calories here. It is to get smarter with how and when you create a deficit. So let's talk about why the scale lies. You can gain 3 pounds overnight and not a single gram of fat. Why? If you had a salty meal, if you ate carbohydrates for dinner, if you are still having your menstrual cycle, if you are inflamed from a hard workout, this all can shift your body's ability to retain water. That is going to show up in those 3 to 5 pound fluctuations on the scale that can leave you wanting to break the scale. If you see the scale jump after a restaurant meal or right before your period, this is water. And essentially, if you see the scale go up quickly in any scenario, it's just not fat. And so, really staying in that mindset is actually the first thing, because when we start to see the scale go up, when we are doing everything right, we're in our deficit, we're exercising, we're moving, this can throw everything off course. And so the biggest thing is to understand what story your scale is trying to tell you when you're looking at it. Predictably, certain women will have their weight shift maybe 3 pounds, others will have their shift maybe 5 pounds. And we see this predictably throughout their weight loss journey before they hit a new low. Okay. So, understanding that the scale can be just used as data versus always using it as a mechanism of deciding whether you've won or you've failed is a better way of looking at it, right? We need to decide that the scale is just providing us data. It is not telling us that we have failed at our plan. This is also why I really educate my patients on taking measurements, right? Because when we see fat loss, we are not necessarily going to see the scale dive. But what we will see is the inches around the waist are going to go down, right? The inches around wherever you are measuring are probably going to shift and change. But you are also gaining muscle, feeling more lean. Fat loss is slow, water weight is not. So when people go on these drastic diets that cut out entire food groups like carbohydrates that we know are a macronutrient that helps us retain more water, we know that we're going to see that scale shift really quickly. But it's not going to be that long-term solution. And it's one of the reasons why weight just comes back. We need to look at more than the scale. We need to measure. We need to look at body composition. So if you have those metrics, we need to look at how our clothes feel. And why might you be gaining fat while dieting? If you are eating too little for too long, you will inevitably start to lose muscle. So it's not about just water loss, but then you start to lose muscle. When we lose muscle, our metabolism goes down. If your workouts are all cardio, your food is low protein, your body will hold on to fat and be more likely to burn muscle. You have to make sure you have a balanced diet. We cannot be in an extreme deficit with an extreme amount of cardio. When we talk about online, a workout stressing your body out and making you hold onto fat, this is what we're referring to. We're not referring to the people who hit their protein and change up their workouts. And sometimes they do HIIT and they run and they do all of the other things. We're actually talking about the people who are extremely under eating for too long, not focusing on fueling properly with protein, and just doing cardio. This is how women end up, in quotations, skinny fat, right? We're lighter on the scale, but our body composition is not strong. We don't have enough lean muscle mass, and we do not feel tone, right? So, how do we break this plateau without breaking ourselves? What I recommend to my patients is starting with a diet break. And a lot of people are actually relieved to hear this because after being in a deficit for so long, it can feel like a black hole. It can feel like a spiral. So I typically recommend my patients go into a break. If they're in a deficit at 1,600 calories and their maintenance is around 2,000 to 2,100, they're going to go back into maintenance, 2,000, 2,100. They're going to make sure that they start by fueling appropriately, hitting their protein goals, hitting their carbohydrate goals. A lot of this shocks people that I want patients to hit carbohydrate goals. Carbohydrates are important. And women intuitively, when they're on a weight loss or fat loss journey, tend to undereat carbs. They gravitate towards the low carb, high fat options that we've always been told is better for weight loss. However, my patients are more satisfied, have better energy, and less cravings when we hit them with the right carbohydrates. I'm not saying just go eat a loaf of bread. I'm saying make sure that your carbohydrates are quality. This is also going to give us fiber, which helps regulate our hormones, help with our digestion, and make us feel fuller, right? Adding in one higher carb day can also be helpful for some individuals just to help your body understand that you are not starving and you are going to be back in that metabolic upswing. Increase your NEAT. This means getting more steps, moving more on during your regular workday, not just relying on that 30 to 60-minute workout, right? Yes, we will burn calories when we intentionally lift weight, when we intentionally move, but this is where the walking comes in. This is where doing the chores around the house can be really helpful for our weight loss journey by increasing the energy that we expend just in our day to day. A lot of us, myself included, spend the day sitting down at a desk, in an office, in a space where we are sedentary. And so moving in whatever way we can be really helpful. So just know that plateaus are not failure, they are data. And I want you to comment below if you've been stuck and you want to review your plan to get back on track and out of that plateau. Hit subscribe if you want more weekly videos on women's health and hormones and how to finally get them under control.